Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Ward 3 Neighborhood Planning Assembly. Thank you for coming out tonight. You have any number of things you could have done on a Wednesday night, but you chose to be here with us, and we're grateful for that. My name is Chris Hazley. I'll be co-facilitating the meeting tonight with Mr. Zachary Cummings here to my right. We are on the steering committee for the NPA. We have a agenda lined up tonight. We'll be hearing a little bit about the Elmwood Avenue shelter pods. We'll hear from the Community Justice Center regarding the Community Conflict Assistance Program. And after we do that, we'll also be hearing from a couple of local developers, I believe as well. I think, Zach, you have an amendment you want to make to the agenda?
Yes, I motion to amend the agenda. For a second.
I'll second. Well, you got to make the motion on what it's going to be.
Oh, I make the motion to add a presentation from Rick Bove and Dave Hartnett on a development for a maximum of 20 minutes after the conflict assistance program item.
I will second that. Before we take the vote to amend the agenda, I just want to be forthright with everyone here. We did just check it with the city here. There is a warning requirement for the major impact review here. So tonight's presentation from Mr. Bove and company will be strictly informational only, and there will be another meeting for this purposes that will be properly warned in accordance with open meeting law and the local ordinance here. But we have folks here tonight, so we're gonna give them some time on the agenda, I think, to do that. Also like to make an amendment to it to include 15 minutes for city council updates as well. So I guess I would pose the city council updates. We'll put the 7:35. We'll do the developer presentation. Followed by council updates, followed by the adjournment. 20 minutes, 15, what do you need? 50. Okay. Well, that will take us to 7:40. And we'll do 20 minutes for the council, followed by 10-minute public forum and adjourn. Okay, does that sound good to folks? Anybody have any questions on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So many people from Ward 3 here tonight. All right, sounds like we're good to go here. And again, we'll be making sure to do another meeting so that more folks have an opportunity to hear about this project as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ms. Taylor Tebow from Champlain Housing Trust and Sarah Russell from the Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity. We'll be providing an update on the current status of the Elmwood Avenue shelter pods, and we'll probably end up at some point talking about houselessness in general. It's generally free form flowing here, so pretty laid back. So who wants to start?
I'm happy to start.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the introduction. Again, Taylor Tebow. I am the Associate Director of Homelessness Prevention Initiatives at Champlain Housing Trust, and one of many things that I hold is the Elmwood Community Shelter, better known, I think we all know, as the pods. So I appreciate you asking us to come to the meeting tonight. I'm happy to be here to field any questions that folks may have in regards to Elmwood. I'll just share briefly. We've now been open a little over 3 years, and from my perspective, I've been there the whole time. And from my perspective, I feel like it's been a success, and we can chat further about that if other folks have different points of view. In total, I've served around 149 guests in that 3-year time period. 99 of those guests have left the space without access to permanent housing. Right now we have 19 and counting that have moved into permanent housing, and my beds are full. We have an average length of stay there of almost 250 days. Originally intended to have a 6-month length of stay, but when looking at the data that from coordinated entry, it did not support that folks can find permanent housing in that time frame. So we shifted, and folks can stay until they can find access to permanent housing. Is there anything in particular that folks wanted me to dive into a little further, or if anyone has any questions?
To take a step back from the pods a little bit, talk about houselessness in general a little bit. And I know there's a number of agencies that are working on this and a number of agencies that have come together to cooperate to work on this. And there's this thing known as coordinated entry. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that and how that works and how the kind of the bigger pieces fit together? And then we'll kind of slide back into the pods.
About coordinated entry, sure. Because you specifically asked to talk about the Elmwood Community Shelter, that is the majority of data that we prepared tonight. But more than happy to speak to your question around.
Overview, yeah.
Yep. So coordinated entry, the coordinated entry system is mandated by the federal government for communities that receive federal funding to support homelessness initiatives. So in Chittenden County, we have a continuum of care that oversees our coordinated entry system and serves as our local decision-making body of stakeholders around homelessness in our community. We receive approximately a little over or right around $1.1 million of federal funding to support various permanent supportive housing programs, rapid rehousing programs for our coordinated entry system infrastructure, for our homeless management information system or our shared database, in addition to some other housing programs. Coordinated entry is really a sort of no wrong door approach. So when a household begins experiencing homelessness, they have access to the same housing resources and services, regardless of what organization they go to. We use a common assessment where we ask folks the same questions at each organization to collect different data points around vulnerability. And then we also use coordinated entry to keep what's called a by name list. It's really important that we, attach, names and faces and humans to our data. So we work off of a master list and use that to prioritize households based on their level of vulnerability and how long they've been homeless as housing opportunities become available. So all organizations that receive federal and state funding for homelessness are required to engage in the coordinated entry system. So it's the way that we kind of all work together, both as a region within Chittenden County and statewide, to coordinate our advocacy, to understand our impact, and to make adjustments within our system to make it more effective.
Thank you, Sarah.
Do you want to add anything to that? No, I don't think so.
So I think you both touched on some of the challenges you're facing, and I think Taylor, you'd mentioned you had 99 people that were guests at the pods that have moved on to non-standard housing or maybe not housing at all, and it sounds like something's not quite working right there. Could you maybe elaborate on what are the challenges that you all face in moving folks, from the shelter pods community into the more stable housing?
Yeah, sure. I think there's a myriad of things that I think could change to make, folks be more successful in transitioning to more permanent placement. One of the challenges I think is the folks that we want to serve at Elmwood are our hardest to house folks, labeled as our hardest to house folks who have really intensive barriers to accessing permanent housing, whether it be criminal history, substance use, no income, lack of a subsidy. The list just goes on. And I think it's no secret to anyone here that the housing availability is very limited here in Burlington, specifically in Chittenden County. So if you put all of those pieces together, the folks that we're intending and currently serving at Elmwood have very little wiggle room to get through to a permanent housing placement without intensive case management, and a very long wait time. So you need to be successful for sometimes years in order to receive an opportunity on the coordinated entry list or with a housing authority that you may have rented from previously that you unfortunately, wasn't successful in that moment. You have to wait years in order to access that affordable housing opportunity again. So yeah, I guess, does that
Yeah,
answer
no,
your
and that
question?
brings up another question, with this list here is like, what's the criteria for that? Is it like, there's different factors that go into place and determine someone's placement on the list? People move up and down on how does that work? Like,
For Elmwood specifically or coordinated?
I
entry?
guess coordinated entry in general, and I would guess that each program would have its own guidelines, and then based upon that, they would determine, they'd match it up with the coordinated entry.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so what we would use the master list and whatever the housing opportunity was. So we have a system that is sort of with our coordinated entry list as people are coming in, right? That's our inflow. So people are coming in, we're conducting a standardized, vulnerability assessment with each person who comes in. They're assigned a case manager or a housing navigator, and then that is really their kind of support person to guide them through the process. Something to I think from a system standpoint, we have a real lack of capacity to serve these households. So in some cases, somebody may come into the system newly homeless, engage in a vulnerability assessment with a provider, and then may need to wait anywhere from 6 to 9 months before they are connected to a housing navigator to begin that process of working toward permanent housing. So I think that we have a backlog, certainly, in Chittenden County, especially in Chittenden County, but statewide, and a lack of service capacity to be able to support these households. I think one of the things that I do want us to take a step back as we think about Elmwood, and measuring sort of what success is of a shelter. So I do want to get to CVOEO's role within the Elmwood Community Shelter. But what I can say from my experience is that the goal of a shelter of an actual shelter is to keep people sheltered until they move into permanent housing. So we measure success based on how long people can stay in that shelter in some cases. And I know that that's like a reframe, in some cases. We're always working to try to, support folks with accessing permanent housing as an outflow measure of homelessness. But to Taylor's point around the length of stay that people have within the shelter is really critical. So we're, responding to a huge need, incredibly vulnerable people. I would argue that these folks aren't the ones who have barriers. It's our system that has barriers to being able to house them and support them in the ways that they need. And then we're putting them into a shelter and expecting them to be successful while they wait for literal years until there might be a housing opportunity for them. And so the length of time that people are able to stay is really one of our measures of success for shelter provision, is that we can support folks with a successful and healthy stay and keep them engaged over the course of that shelter stay. One of the things that's unique to Elmwood, and that we have embedded housing case management or housing navigators within the shelter. So there are 2 full-time housing advocates that are employed by CVOEO who provide all of the case management and housing navigation services to the Elmwood guests. And they do make referrals to mental health supports, substance use treatment and recovery supports, medical care, legal services, and also to employment, education, and training programs as well. So we have these embedded service providers within this shelter, which helps to, really is a partnership with CHT for successful shelter operation there.
So you have a lot of folks that opt into some of the optional things like the job training and some of the other services.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
I have a question for you. How many beds Champlain Housing are they gonna increase the pods somewhere else? Because we really need hundreds for all.
We currently have 30 beds, 30 individual shelter units and 30 beds. I agree. And I'm not the spokesperson for CHT kind of increasing this initiative. I wish I was, because I would say I would love that in the very near future, but I unfortunately I don't have any.
It's not even being discussed.
Well, I could say from
Yeah.
CVOEO's perspective, we are always assessing the need in the community for more shelter capacity. So, while we have two, folks who are embedded in this Elmwood shelter, we also operate 6 additional shelters across the Champlain Valley, including Chittenden County and Franklin County. And we're actually on Monday, anyone is invited. We would love to have you attend an open house for a brand new shelter opening over at 184 Pearl Street. CVOEO is opening
Is that the former
a
Act
recovery-
One?
Yep, we're opening a recovery shelter at that location with partnership from Howard Center to have embedded clinical services. And we are really excited about that project. So yes, we are always looking to expand shelter capacity. Becomes a bit of a funding challenge. We, do not have the funding that we need in some cases to be able to operate shelters or to be able to staff them. It's really expensive. I know that there's a lot of mixed bag reviews on the general assistance emergency housing program or the hotel motel program. The reality is that program is far more cost effective to operate than a shelter is. And I think there's a common, myth around that being a really expensive program, but it's actually less expensive on a per bed night basis than it is to operate a shelter. So short answer, I guess, is yeah, we are always looking for how we can expand system capacity.
I work at Chittenden Clinic, part-time and substance abuse, and a lot of the people coming there are homeless.
Yeah.
And it's very heartbreaking to see,
Yeah.
and they have staggering medical needs, open sores, and are living out in tents or wherever and getting frostbite. It's really upsetting to think in America we have this going on.
I could not agree with you more. And I
Yeah.
think to your point, CVOEO operated the extreme cold weather shelter this winter. And in partnership with many other organizations, we had to build our staffing roster using all overtime staff. Taylor, we hired as one of our managers there at that shelter. So every staff person who worked there had a full-time job and was working many hours above and beyond that to staff the shelter. And we operated for 12 nights this winter. Last year we operated for 9 nights. And in those 12 nights of operation, we have served 239 unique people for a total of, I think it's 773 bed nights, which is mind blowing. So, and around the 240 number really aligns with who we know is not able to access shelter. So we've talked a lot about, people who, within shelter programs and shelter expansion. But we have over 200 people in Chittenden County that we are simply unable to shelter. And a lot of times, exactly what you're saying, they're very unwell people who have significant medical issues, living in tents and on sidewalks.
I will say that in the interim, we're trying to be creative to figure out solutions to help maintain that specific issue. The state had disseminated some funding to medical agencies that were interested in providing medical case management and care in shelters and day stations. So if you ever run into folks that need that type of service and you're not able to meet it right away at the Chittenden Clinic, there's availability in CHC or community health centers of Burlington are partnering with a lot of local agencies providing services to unhoused individuals, specifically at the day station off of North Ave and then at the CRC or the Community Resource Center, the food shelf.
Of the 99 who don't transition into permanent housing, do they just time out or what is the reason for their exiting?
Yeah, good question. I don't necessarily want to get into the nuances of everyone's exit, and I can understand the question. It's not timed out though. It's several different factors. I'll say the the most apparent one that I can think of at the top of my head is folks in the summertime not utilizing their space in the way that it was intended. We don't have a curfew there, so some folks, you know, feel this sense of I'm trying to think of the word, but you know, a lot of the folks that that come into Elmwood were experiencing unsheltered homelessness. Everyone is actually, because that's who we prioritize. And they see their friends continuing to stay outside, to your point, in tents and struggling with that. And you have this sense of loyalty to folks. And I think that's why we see some people not being able to maintain their shelter unit, because they feel most comfortable in that environment and want to be helpful to the people that are really struggling outside. So that is one in particular that I can think of that I've had to exit a few more people than I thought for that particular reason.
What are the barriers to entry?
That's a good question too. We actually have very limited barriers to entry. If you have a recent violent criminal history, we will deny you initially, but you have the opportunity to appeal that decision. And for context, I have 300 individuals on my wait list right now. And again, I've served 149 since the beginning of the shelter. And I've only denied 2 folks, and one of them was overturned. So very, very low barrier to entry. Yeah.
Out of the guests that you service at the plaza, what percentage would you say are struggling with like a mental health condition or substance use, or is a lot of medical need there? Or is it, I asked because I recently saw statistics, they said that something like 85% of unhoused people nationwide are struggling with either an untreated mental health condition or a substance use disorder, or possibly both. And does that number translate well to what we see here locally, or is it a slightly different number, or how does that play out? Because I know that challenges the delivery of services sometimes.
Yeah, I think that it could I would imagine, just from you know, being there on a daily basis, that would translate, and it really ebbs and flows because we have that service provision built into Elmwood. Folks are able to meet their needs in the moment. When you're experiencing unsheltered homelessness, that's unfortunately not the goal, right? The goal is to maintain being alive and like your day to day. So the need is met at the shelter.
So-
Question about the 99 that left, were they evicted or they voluntarily left? Because I do know that you do evict some.
Yeah, it's eviction process is more linked to residency, which there's not a residency or tenant rights involved in a shelter. So we actually refer to the folks that are staying there as guests. And there are times where I have to involuntarily exit someone. And there have been cases where folks have voluntarily left. Limited, but
But they're not all 99.
not all.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted, I actually just pulled up, and I'm happy to send the link to you, Chris, if you want to share it, but the 2025 point in time count that captures some like key findings related to an annual data report that the Housing and Homelessness Alliance of Vermont prepares in coordination with the continuum of care. And we had 32% reported a serious mental health issue in 2025. 19% reported struggling with substance use disorder in 2025. So there's, certainly those are increases year over year. So that's a 27% increase in reported mental health instance since 2024, and a 59% increase in substance use over 2024 data. So, I mean, I think that our numbers are real, as high as, 50% around mental health issues. We see a lot of folks who have disabilities. So in our coordinated entry system, approximately 28% of people who are within that system have some kind of a disability and receive SSI or SSDI. One of the more alarming data points that we've seen over the last few years is an increase in older Vermonters experiencing homelessness. And we've seen that number at least double within just the last couple of years.
And what's leading to that increase among the senior population?
multiple factors.
Multiple
I would
factors.
say one of
Yep.
them is folks aging into senior status, experiencing homelessness,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
In what sense?
So folks have been captured as experiencing homelessness prior to turning 62. And so folks age into
Already
a
homeless
senior
and then
status. Yeah,
a senior.
yeah,
But I think that also speaks to the length of time
yeah.
that people are experiencing homelessness is much longer than what we've ever seen in the past.
Oh, I wanted to say like, I feel like one of the issues I've seen personally is that I feel like a lot of homeless issues would be what sorry, I mean, let me backtrack, but if the federal subsidies were kind of a little more forgiving when it comes to rules, like when you have guests over and things like that, like if they weren't taking subsidies all the time, that would solve a lot of issues that I've seen. Like I'm actually kind of alarmed myself with the older folks that I've seen out there.
There are very strict regulations around federal rental assistance that we have zero control over locally.
Right.
And I think that as we see, some real huge changes on the federal level, especially related to funding, directed toward low-income folks and low-income housing programs, it shrinks the size of the program. So I think it was just, earlier this year, we saw housing authorities losing access to funding or having real unstable funding that allows them to even provide rental assistance or Section 8 vouchers statewide, not just, in Chittenden County and across the country. Our local housing authority in Burlington made the decision, and when was that? January? So December?
I think it was a little earlier than December.
Yeah, okay, made the decision that they were, for the entire calendar year of 2026, not going to be issuing any rental assistance and any new rental assistance.
Even the project-based vouchers.
The project-based vouchers would continue, but they would not be issuing new rental assistance to applicants on their wait list. So when that happens, then they squeeze those regulations even further because their goal is like they need to shrink that program in order to continue to make it, affordable. So we see more strict enforcement of the kinds of program violations that you're mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, even before like the Trump cuts, so that was a major issue. Or just the rules are so strict.
I'm not sure we're in that same spot at the local housing authority anymore, though.
Right?
We'd have to look further into it.
What is your total budget? What percentage comes from the federal government, state government and local philanthropy?
For Elmwood specifically.
Yes.
It's 100% state funded.
Yeah. It's 100% state funded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually,
And with a few ARPA leverage funds
with
in the city.
yeah, there's about I think what was
Like
there?
80,000.
About 70, I think it was like $77,000 of remaining city ARPA funds that went into the budget this year, but otherwise it's 100% state funded.
What is that amount? What's the budget?
The total
It's
budget?
1.2 billion.
Okay, but I just visited COTS yesterday, the way station, and they said that their budget was like 5.2 million. And it's this equivalent number of guests.
I think they have a few more beds than what Elmwood allows. I believe their new way station has around 56 beds.
Okay,
And Elmwood has
okay.
30, yeah.
Still,
And
I
it's-
also think that includes probably their two family shelters that they operate.
Oh, yeah, that's the whole thing.
And the other thing to remember too is that Elmwood shelter, the Elmwood Community Shelter is also a 24/7 shelter, meaning that it operates 24 hours a day. The COTS new way station location on Pearl Street only operates overnight, and then they supplement by operating the day station during the day. So folks aren't overnight and through the day in the shelter. They're split between two. Do you see what I'm saying? Like they sort of complement the hours. So
There's still a pretty big discrepancy between the budgets. It was like $4 million.
I'd have to look further into it. I
don't
think
know.
every operation has their differences for sure. The funding is dependent on, the site itself, how you operate. If you're operating 24 hours, how many staff people you have to have on one during the day at whatever time. Cause it might be concluded by zoning, violations or whatever.
You can also look at the state of Vermont, the Office of Economic Opportunity
Yeah.
hosts all of the state funding awards. That's public information, so they should actually at this point, they should have all of the FY26 HOP fund, or it's a housing opportunity program as HOP funding awards for the state.
I have the link and I can send it to you all.
So, Sarah, so I think the next time we have you come in, we're gonna have you bring like a flow chart with all the different agencies and what programs we put on the wall, understand. A lot of moving parts going on tonight to bring it together, but bring it back to the pods though. So in terms of evaluating the project and is it still considered pilot or is it like a permanent project at this point?
I would say permanent project.
Exited the pilot phase?
Yeah.
And so based on what we said before, so the measure of success is not how many people transition into the permanent housing, but how many people were able to get off the streets and put a roof over their head on any given night during the year, particularly in the cooler months.
I would say, yeah, both.
Yeah, for sure.
Counselor Brown?
Thank you. A couple of quick questions. The number of 300 people on the wait list, is that essentially all the people that we have that are camping or sleeping rough, or does that also include people that are homeless but in shelters?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's both. It's anyone that meets the HUD definition of homelessness. So you could be in a shelter at another location and be on the wait list as well. But it does translate somewhat well to how many folks we do think are sleeping rough in Burlington.
So you prioritize people.
And yes, we do. We prioritize folks that are unsheltered at Elmwood.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And not necessarily for a discussion now, but just to kind of plant a seed because it's already March. It's going to start to get warmer. And we have consistently had a number of behavioral issues outside of the pods that get attributed to the pods for various reasons. And there hasn't been a great way to handle that. It causes a great deal of concern to residents that are in that area who do want to be supportive, but it's quality of life issues. So I do think that is something we need to sit down and talk about and maybe bring Chief Burke into the conversation as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to have future conversations. I've had really good relationships with the Mackenzie House, in particular with their landlords. O'Brien, or the property managers there, and anytime, and even their custodian and maintenance personnel, if they have an issue that they can attribute to Elmwood, they'll usually call me, and I'm happy to help mitigate any issues that are happening at any time. So still that's still a sentiment on the table.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can maybe speak to about an issue that's very close to the pods, but not directly related to the pods, because I live 2 buildings down right next to the post office, and my neighbor in the front of the building is a drug user, and it's been reported on WCAX. There was an arrest there made recently, and it is being handled. My property manager does want him out. It is going through the courts. It's been going on for about 3 or 4 months, but he's only lived there since last summer. So it's not something that's the pods have been there for what you said, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, and there's lots of, I live in the back of the building, so I'm not a firsthand witness to like a lot of what's going on. I just hear about it afterwards from my other neighbors. But I do know that there's whenever I'm walking to and from the apartment to my apartment, and again, it's his apartment's in the front. So I see people coming and going at all times. Some of the people might be from the pods. They could be from anywhere in the city. But I think just because it's so close to the pods that just built by association, that it gives everyone a bad rap. But it is being handled. My property manager is on top of it. The fire department's been called multiple times for smoke alarms going off. Hopefully it will be resolved soon. But it's been a public safety issue for several months now. So
Yeah.
hopefully it will be resolved soon. Yeah. Yeah, because she's actually made him a very good deal. She's offered him his security deposit back and he's refusing to leave. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, those can be really challenging situations, but it sounds like everyone that's at play is doing exactly what they should at the
Yeah,
moment. Yeah.
So one of the things I remember is when we first started having a community conversation prior to the establishment of the shelter pods, there were supposed to be some community meetings that took place periodically. And I looked online, I wasn't able to find any record of those meetings actually taking place. Is there still like a community advisory group that you meet with from the neighborhood to talk through the different issues on a regular basis? Or has that communication changed? Well, like what's going on with that?
That would be a good question for the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. And who would you suggest we talk to from the city on that? Because I know there's been some trouble.
There has been a lot of transition, that's for sure. The person that I would suggest would maybe be Kara.
Okay, I know Cara.
Yeah.
Do that.
Okay, do we have any other questions for our presenters?
Well, thank you so much for having us. If you do have additional questions that you weren't able to get to today, or that, you wake up in the middle of the night and it's a pressing thing like I do all the time, you can shoot me an email. I think you must have my contact
absolutely.
information and Sarah's as well.
Well, thanks for coming in.
It's happening.
Anything you want to share like last minute, Sarah? Or yeah.
Oh, no, I appreciate the good questions and, empathy and patience that folks have and the curiosity, around a shelter project. So thank you for
Okay.
having us.
Well, thanks for coming in. We'll have to have you come back in a few more months. Thanks again.
Okay, so people need to do more with the microphones.
Oh.
Okay, people are talking very quietly and they're not using the microphone, so you see how far this is. So if that could be for you, 3 people. Okay, well, this comes here, this one, that here. Got to redo a lot of these things. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Trust them around. Tell them hi from the
So when you get this to the editing room floor, you need to put up the test pattern, experiencing technical difficulties.
That's very good.
The Gen Xers will understand. So. Right, well, moving on. Thank you for coming out again. And next up, we have Barbara Shaw Dorso from the Burlington Community Justice Center, who will be talking to us about the free services available to community members from the Conflict Assistance Program. So thank you, Barbara.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. The name of the program that I represent is CAP, Conflict Assistance Program. It's under the umbrella of the Burlington Community Justice Center, which sits within CEDO. The Community Justice Center, all of the programs, and I have a handout here that gives you an overview of the 12 programs that we run, are basically centered around restorative practices. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but always love to talk about that more. We have, as I say, 12 programs that are basically responses to conflict in our community centered around pre-charge or charge situations. I have the only program that is referred just from the community. So if you are a community member and you have a difficult conversation you might need to have with your neighbor, with a family member, any other kind of situation you can imagine, you could call me and my services are free. I'll get into those services a little later. Just right now, starting out, show of hands, or just think to yourself, how many of you would identify as conflict avoidant? Yeah. Conflict is very, very interesting because we have been so socialized to be avoidant. We haven't been immersed in an idea that conflict is just a form of communication and that it can be very productive. Whenever you sit down with someone in good faith, with a certain skill set behind you and a certain amount of confidence, it's just really, I think, pretty predictable that something good might happen. When I talk about my programs, I never talk about them in terms of conflict resolution, because part of restorative practices is communication and relationship repair. And so just having that face-to-face in relationship can be valuable. People think of a time that you maybe have had in the past that you haven't been willing to dig into that difficult conversation. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I still have some in my life. I think about them, and they happened in high school. When you can be proactive, be empowered to have communication with someone, my presentation would propose that it's always productive. So, Community Justice Center, this is my agenda for tonight. I can't read that far. I just want to say I had my eyes operated on a couple of weeks ago, and so if you could see my notes in front of me, they're huge. But I think what I start with is my own background, and I come from a business background. About 18 years ago, I was in a meeting with Pete Clavel, and I said, "Hey, Pete, I want to get more involved in the community. How can I do that?" He said, "Do I have a place for you?" And he sent me over to the Burlington Community Justice Center, which was located above City Market at that time. All I can remember is walking into those meetings, and the smell was so great. It was just amazing. Anyway, we have those sensory things that kind of keep calling us back, don't we? Yeah. So I felt really connected with this process that might take people in different paths from the traditional criminal system. And it seemed like it was a brand new idea for me, brand new way of handling cases in the city back then. And so I was there. I went on to take a VISTA placement, that's Volunteers in Service to America. And I established what we call a victim liaison program. I don't really need to go in too much to that, but this is just part of the background. As I was working for 12, 13 years in panels, which are the restorative practice of bringing responsible parties and affected parties together for the benefit of the community, I saw over and over again how these conflicts that were happening, that sometimes became criminal situations, could have been eliminated if people had just been able to connect. Instead, they escalated until it became an assault or some other kind of criminal charge. And it was always in the back of my mind, how can we do this? How can we do this? And I was introduced to the JAG grant, which was the Justice Assistance Grant through the Burlington Police Department, and was given a bit of their money and wrote the grant, and then was given a bit of their money, which mostly that was 3-4 years ago, 2019, I think it was. Can we have the next slide, Barbara? Started the program in 2019. When I wrote the grant, the objective, they have this list of what you hope to accomplish with your work. And it was education, prevention, and conflict assistance. And we got the grant, started doing the work. These are the services that I currently provide. If you had to imagine how conflict assistance might benefit Burlington, what are some things that you would hope for? Anything in particular you can think of in your own experience or? How could you benefit? How would the city benefit from a program like mine? Conflict assistance.
They hopefully break down some barriers and encourage people to come together, as you suggest, and engage in a dialogue and have a conversation to have that face-to-face contact so that they can maybe de-escalate or talk through some things before they get to a different point.
Spot on, absolutely. Yeah, they're big goals. I'm just going to be perfectly transparent here, and it's just me. I am the conflict assistance program, but I'm, yeah, not but, and I have more than enough to keep me busy. If we see that there is going to be more of a need for this in our community, if I'm getting a lot of more referrals, then there are other resources, I think, that will be available. Grants. By the way, everything at the Community Justice Center is managed through a grant. And did I mention all the services are free? Because I know I did, but I just want to emphasize that. So we respond to requests from people in the community, just like I have said, through the practice of restorative dialogue. I hope that people are given the confidence, the coaching, and the skills to go forth and have these conversations. So in some cases, I would be a coach for someone. I do that quite regularly. In some cases, I would be the facilitator, the neutral party for a restorative dialogue. And I am formally trained. I have my master's in conflict engagement and mediation. And so I can also do mediations. Mediations are a bit more transactional, and often they're assigned through the courts if a situation has gotten to that level anyway. But I do them over the period of the last 3 years. I think I've only done about 5 formal mediations.
You've done some, I think, trainings for community members,
Yep.
have you recently?
Yep, that's the next thing. I have 8 workshops a year, and they each have 2, sometimes 3 sessions that again are free for the community members. And the objective for those workshops is to have people walk away feeling a little more comfortable with their ability to be in conflict. So in terms of the format of the workshops, I start with, how do you show up in conflict? Just as I said that from the very beginning, how many of us are conflict avoidant? And mostly it happens from those emotions of fear of not being liked, or you can think of many things, fear that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And here's the big secret. It does usually get worse before it gets better, but it's in that worse that all the good work happens, I think, anyway. So we talk about emotions. When you are hoping to engage with another person in conflict, what's your body doing? What's your body telling you that your emotions are doing? Are you in that fight flight mode? What kind of triggers are happening within you, so that almost anytime somebody impugns your competence, it's just like 0 to 60. And I really don't like that. And I really am getting emotional about it. So knowing that about yourself is really very helpful in terms of engaging. I do a little bit of work on motivational interviewing and that change talk piece of motivational interviewing, and definitely a lot of work with the OARS skills, which are open-ended questions, affirmation, reflections, and summaries. And then at the end of the second workshop, we usually have a role play, which everyone is always scared about and always says it was their favorite part. So yeah, 2 things we do: the provide direct service and then the workshops.
So recognizing that there are privacy concerns at play in a general sense, so what are some of the types of conflicts you like, you're mediating, like fence conflicts?
Yep.
Roommates, what kind of conflicts have you worked with in the past? Kind of give.
So I wrote down a few notes for myself. And again, you had a good point about conflict. Burlington is so small that sometimes a little detail that you might reveal about a situation will kind of reveal who you're talking about. So in very general terms, I'll tell a couple of stories. And by the way, I do cover the county. So it's Chittenden County. It isn't just Burlington. So one thing that I think is kind of interesting to just sit with for a moment is that almost all conflicts have these 3 things in common. One is a question, did you hear me? Another is a question, do you see me? And when I use the word see, I mean, are you really seeing where I'm coming from? Are you seeing me? And the last thing is, do you care? Do you even care? And in the workshop, one of the objectives is to figure out if it's going to be worth it for you, because sometimes it's not. So with those 3 things in mind, I'm going to tell a couple of stories just briefly. I did 2 times I've done workshops around garden spaces in managed housing places. I don't know if that will be surprising to you, but there's a lot of conflict around the garden spaces. And so both times I was able to work with the managed housing leadership and devise policies. And this was with a group of, in one case, 17, and in one case, 12 people who actually wanted to use the gardens. And this was their agreement. So it was a really great faith put in the, it was community housing establishment in the actual volunteers, or excuse me, users of the space. And that to me was a wonderful success. I've worked with neighbors who have problems with their person on the right, person on the left, and snow, putting snow on their property, and the inconveniences and the feeling of not respecting private property. That's something that I also find so fascinating, is we have such a different idea, every one of us, about private property. It used to be so clear to me. And now it's really not. It's really changing. Everything's changing for me, but I have a lot to say about that.
So
I had a situation.
kind of running low on.
We
time.
are.
Maybe anybody had any questions for Miss Barbara? Charlie, go ahead.
I'm Charlie Messing. I live at South Square, which is a Burlington Housing Authority building. Believe it or not, half of our miscommunication and our communication problems are with the entity known as BHA. It is a shifting, it's like a play, most of which takes place backstage. And then when the actors come on stage, they expect to run through the lines and get out. And when BHA was not run like that, it worked much better. We have a terrific situation right now in our building, 65 apartments, 4 floors, and they're fixing the elevator. So we all do stairs, or, well, some people have moved away, some people have moved to a lower floor, and some people have gone out feet first. These things happen in elderly residents. But we also have disability residents now. So there are some people who just, you see them go through the halls, pressing their shoulder against the wall, all the way down the hall. But the problems are in communicating with BHA. They have people who are in charge of being the contact person or handling the contact people. And you know the expression, leave a message and we'll call you back. How about leave a message and we will never call you back? That's the translation they use. I mean, we have people come in, and for the sake of privacy, we are forbidden to know when someone moves in unless they walk up to you. Some people, well, it used to be that we couldn't knock on each other's doors. I think that one loosened up a little, but not much. I mean, you can't ask somebody what language they speak and try and get a message across. It's all supposedly taken care of from above, from Burlington Housing, who are too busy to handle it. You're familiar with the Rodney Dangerfield?
Yeah, don't get any respect.
Well, our CEO has a default mode that resembles that. Now what? Like he's got a headache. It is difficult. I think it has something to do with lawyers. Because when the lawyers change, rules change to no obvious advantage, but they're very strict about it. And
Well, I think the original point that you brought up about communication is key. And my experience has been that when someone calls on me from one of the managed residential places, there have been people in the organization willing to have conversation. Sometimes it grows in to big policy pieces and a community, your community, gathering together to talk about not necessarily all of the issues that you're having, not specifically, but to look at policies in general and understand from both perspectives, why is this like it is? Can it be changed? Should it be changed? There's movement that can happen, but it takes that communication piece.
yes, we often feel that there is a stack of papers somewhere on someone's desk. And when you give them an issue and ask them about it, it goes on the bottom of the pile. The pile never fully goes away, and they may not get to your issue either. But we have other things like keeping homeless out, for it is cold. And yet when they come in, they do all kinds of things. They don't seem to know anything, and the people who let them in don't seem to know what they should know. There was a change machine in the laundry room that was ripped off the wall and taken. BHA will never replace it because that's money that I suppose is needed for something else.
And Lee, you know me, and I imagine you can find my contact information very easily on the Burlington Community Justice Center, the CAP program. I would welcome a call from you if you'd like to talk more.
Yes, we're sort of in the process of forming a tenants association.
Very
The one-
cool.
The one that was there 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, dissolved in acrimony. However, most of the real fighters have given up the fight.
And I can't
It's-
stress more, this more, is that having a neutral party, I always come into a situation as a neutral party, can be very beneficial for equalizing the power dynamic in the room, because that's very often where these escalated, I can't remember the phrase exactly that you used, but it ended badly. So again, that all those things are definitely worth chatting more about.
Yes, and I will make this known. This week, we have a residence advisory board meeting, which means a person from each of the BHA buildings. And we get together and we received the 5 or 10 commandments that have come up lately. And we don't really know where they originate. We just know who's in charge of saying them. And I'll mention and try and get everybody organized with the elevator missing. It's a little hard to assemble the people.
Hard one.
The hard one. I can do the stairs, some can't.
All right, well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Barbara. Out of time here, but we'll get your contact information. Folks know how to reach you. Sounds like there's a lot of opportunities where you may be able to step in and provide some assistance. So thank you for coming tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now we will transition and pivot to the additional items on the agenda that we had added at the beginning. We'll hear a presentation from Mr. Rick Bove and Mr. Dave Hartnett about a development taking place on Pearl Street at the former Bove's Restaurant. And again, just to reiterate, this is a preview of the official meeting that we will be having down the line that will be properly warned. But in the meantime, we're going to get a preview here tonight. And remember, you saw it here first.
I'll be brief. I'll introduce myself. I'm Dave Hartnett, former city councilor, and believe it or not, have been working on this project since 2015. No longer on the council, but when I did serve on the council, it was interesting to hear the conversations tonight because unhoused individuals and families was a huge part of why I was on the council, what drove me to be on the council. And quickly, when we talk about where we are and how much need we need for the unhoused, I just like to remind people how much good work has been done over the last 10, 12 years. When I was back on the council in 2012, I think for the very first time, we had a man named Paul O'Toole who actually froze to death on a grate on South Winooski Avenue, trying to stay warm overnight. At that time, there was no place for people who had substance abuse problems to go in at night. They weren't allowed. Okay. At that point, being on the council and having a 14-year-old daughter who was passionate about that issue, we went to work and we were able to open the first, back then it was called wet shelter. Now they're low barrier shelters here in Burlington. And the work has continued ever since. And so I know the importance of housing. I'm not a developer. I'm a friend of the Bose family who's been working on this project for them for many years, started when I was on the council. I'm committed to finishing this project. And I do want to see more affordable housing in Burlington. I want to see, again, we have a beautiful project that was just built in downtown Burlington, hotel, nice housing. I appreciate that as well. I don't consider that to be an affordable option. Okay. And so we're here tonight to really present a project to you, which I think will enhance our neighborhood here in Burlington. I'm passionate about it. I believe in the Boves. I believe that in the last 5 to 7 years, the effort they have made to house people, the commitment they have made to not only in Burlington, but throughout the state, has been one that's been really enhanced of lately. And we're excited to present this project tonight. I will turn it over to Rick. I will say though, and I'll take this time because when I come to meetings like this and I talk about projects like this and I talk about the unhoused and I talk about some of the situations we are here, I have my daughter with me who I unfortunately lost. My wife and I lost our only daughter 2.5 years ago to a tragic accident in Huntington, Vermont. Okay. We have since established a foundation called Katie's Kindness.org. If you go to katieskindness.org, you'll read and understand about one of the most beautiful kids in the world, in my opinion, right? And what it meant to her and what it meant to house people. So we've been very fortunate. City of Burlington was in kind to open up Katie's House, which is on Shelburne Road, next to the Champlain Inn. That was just all done over. So Katie's House provides all the meals and services next to that center. It's a wonderful location. They've done an incredible amount of work. So I would just like to say, compliment the city of Burlington on all the work they have done over the last 10 to 12 years to really address a problem, not only here in Burlington and in the state of Vermont, across this country. And as you said earlier, it's a shame that we are talking about that in the United States of America. And I agree with you 100%. So tonight, we hope that you will, sit back and listen to this and I hope you appreciate the work that's been done here and the project that was going forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rick Bove.
Dave, thank you very much. Thank you for welcoming us this evening. Our family has been working on this, as Dave said, for a number of years. And if you all remember the restaurant, you remember that we prided ourselves, our whole family, our uncles and aunts, on giving an affordable meal to the community, someplace that everyone could go to and can have a nice time. So in the spirit of that, my brother and my mom and I felt that this is the right time to try to redevelop the site. It's a very small site, as you are probably aware, but one of the things that we have going for us at that site is, well, its location, and what zoning allows is height in that location. So we are proposing a 6-story building that will have approximately 25 housing units and a commercial component on the first floor. We feel that it's a great location. We are committed to creating housing that is very affordable in today's standards, meaning that most of the units will be efficiencies, but they will be, we're trying to price them around the $13.95 a month price point with everything included, meaning not only the heat, water, electric, but also your Wi-Fi, cable, everything included. One price for everything. We'll have a gym on the first floor. Obviously, we'll have an elevator. We'll have storage in the basement. And certainly Section 8 available at this price point. With the proximity of the bus terminal, just a half a block away, and just the waterfront being another block or so away, we feel that it'll be a nice home for a lot of people and an affordable place for a lot of people. We have some hoops to jump through, but we feel that we can meet those, we can jump through them and meet what the city wants and develop a really nice project that we can all be proud of in the end.
This is where the old Bove's restaurant is now. Not a very attractive place as it sits. We're looking to change that.
They're still thinking of doing Baldwin Street. Rural.
Excellent point.
That's absolutely correct. Well, at Victoria Place, the building next door, eventually Pine Street will be reconnected like it was in the old days. And so there will be hundreds of cars coming up Pine Street a day, probably turning left to get onto the Beltline. And we want to do our part in creating a beautiful building that Burlington can be proud of.
How many affordable units did you say there were?
100%.
No, how many?
It's going to be approximately 25 housing units.
So 25 new housing units, all of which will be affordable.
All of them. Yeah, with a small commercial component on the first floor, which zoning dictates. Yeah.
So all of them are available with Section 8?
Yes.
In
Yeah.
the and all can be used Section?
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Does that create conditions that have to be met that, like, for example, don't you have to be a citizen to use Section 8?
We allow the housing authorities to dictate who receives the voucher. We're not the ones giving out the voucher. The Burlington
Oh.
Housing Authority,
Oh.
Winooski, or Vermont State.
Okay.
awards the vouchers to recipients. And then they come.
They receive one.
Right. Right. Okay, so that,
We're-
with you,
we're not-
that's them.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So I was looking at the picture here before the meeting started, and if I looked at it correctly, it looks like the window from the original restaurant is like kind of preserved, or
Our architect is John Alden from Scott and Partners, and he and his mom used to frequent the restaurant quite often. And so they were, if people remember the restaurant, there was a couple windows at the front that were octagonal in shape. And so he was able to take that cue and kind of bring it to the new building. He also tried to make the building look on the front Art Deco-ish, if that's a word, because the restaurant was Art Deco. And I think he did a fantastic job. It's a beautiful looking building.
Views on the windows.
And another thing that he did is he put all of the corridors for the building on the east side so that all the residents of the building will have views to the west. And so they'll have sunsets to watch, and it just makes it that much more desirable to
And
live.
not at $1.2 million either, right? The view, right? For me personally, this project, you know, to be able to get in there and offer, it's hard to believe that $13.95 is what it is, but that is an affordable place for people to live, using housing vouchers if they need to, right? And you don't see that in Burlington. This will be by far the best value in the city, and we're proud of that. And this is more of a legacy back to this neighborhood. If most of you people know that it was part of urban renewal, a lot of people were forced out of their homes way back when they put the mall back in. And to me, you know, as a longtime Burlington resident and knowing a lot of the families, and including some of the Bove families themselves that were forced to leave, and in a very small way, it's kind of intriguing to be able to offer this back, right? That we're going to be able to put some type of housing, you know, far different from what was there, but give people a chance to live in this part of the neighborhood at a reasonable rate and walking distance to everything. Don't need a vehicle, you know, certainly don't need a car if you don't want one, right? It's just a great location. It's been a long time coming. What's there now is an eyesore. We're not looking back, we're looking forward, right? And there's been a lot of roadblocks on both sides, but we feel this is the best project that we could possibly put forward. I know the city's kind of anxious about getting this going. And so we'll meet again for sure, but they pushed this in, you know, to kind of get on the agendas quick, and there was a miscommunication. And so officially, we're not officially on, so it won't count as the official meeting, but we'll be back in front of you again. But certainly welcome any feedback in the meantime. And you could reach out to Rick himself. He'll give you any contact information you want. And we feel free to answer any questions that you might have in the future. So
we've told Mr. Bove that his future presentation has to involve the family sauce. Thank you guys for coming out tonight and sharing that. I think it's a great little project for our neighborhood. 25 affordable units is something that we most desperately need here. And I think as we continue to build out a spectrum of housing options and everything from the shelter pods on up to apparently luxury housing here in Burlington, we have it all. Well, maybe not, but yeah. So thank you for coming out tonight. We'll work with you to get the schedule on, and now we'll move on to the next item on the amended agenda, which will be our city councilor updates.
see you, my old friend.
And I'd like to congratulate Laura Sanchez Perkinson for her election yesterday at town meeting day. So exciting to actually have a city councilor from Ward 3 who actually shows up to the NPA. So we're looking forward to having it be a regular occurrence. So without further ado, if there's anything you want to add, I know you're not officially sworn in yet, but I know you probably have some ideas, and Councilor Grant, I know there's a lot of things you're always working on, so.
Yes, thank you all. And I'll share a little bit about the campaign as a reflection piece, and I'll turn it over to Councilor Grant. I feel so honored to have been able to connect with so many folks across the ward, many who I still look forward to connecting. And so I think that housing was definitely something top of mind. But what really stood out to me was in terms of the diverse experiences, because we all have different stories in terms of the spaces that we're occupying in our city. And so that really stood out to me, and I'm really being mindful and thoughtful about not having one lens or one approach to how we think about housing and how are we addressing the housing shortage, but also just in general, how we're addressing creating more enjoyable and just suitable unit spaces for people to live. So that's something I just wanted to build on the theme of today. Also really grateful for Barbara's presentation as we think about conflict and is particularly in housing. And that was another theme that really stood out to me as I had conversations with folks, just people feeling frustrated, people feeling angry about the situation we're experiencing, whether it's with landlords, whether it's with tenants, whether it's with neighbors, whether it's with inequalities of our housing. And so I just appreciated that perspective of thinking of how are we building the skill sets and the environment for us to be able to manage some of this conflict, some of this anger and frustration that we have as we're addressing housing and other very critical issues in our city. So I just very much appreciated the people being able to share their time, their perspectives, their stories with me. I had one of my last sessions that I had with a group of people, a third of them shared experiences of being unhoused at some point in their lives, and others sort of responding and saying like, thank you for sharing. I never knew that about you. Now I know why you're so passionate about this. And so it just demonstrated to me the ability to share with one another our stories and experiences, because it's really shaping how we engage and how we work on the issues that we do. So I'm excited to officially start the role next month. So welcome you all to come out. April 6th will be the inauguration. So welcome you all to join at City Hall and then as well. So also just want to say thank you to everyone who helped make yesterday happen. I mean, town meeting day is a massive endeavor across our city. So just everyone who just put the effort to make that day happen. I just feel very grateful for the community coming together to do that. Laura Sanchez Parkinson, and will be serving in Ward 3 City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. My name's Mila Grant. I currently serve as the Central District City Councilor, which is Wards 2 and 3. I am very, very excited to be working with Laura. I've already tried to start to include her in to some things. So for example, we met with Dave Hartnett and the Boves a couple of weeks ago. I said, hey, they're going to be working on this project. It's going to be in Ward 3. I think it'll be great if you come down to the meeting as well. I have to say I think everyone is in full agreement that to have that project there is going to be just fantastic. It is during their meeting with us, they seem to be very mindful now of their legacy. You know, that was their family restaurant for decades. It had a place in the community, and now it is what it is. So to be able to move past that, to be able to offer housing that could be transition housing for individuals. The architect seems to be very thoughtful with the design that they're doing, because it's going to be efficiencies, but they're going to do built-in Murphy beds in addition to having the storage for people. And then all the windows, because as you saw, it's going to be kind of long, but very narrow. So all the windows are going to be facing the lake, and then the hallways will be behind. So they're putting some thoughtfulness into the design to make it a special place and make people be able to feel comfortable. So very excited about that. Town meeting day, it was a long day. I woke up about 5. I joined Laura for a couple of hours at Sustainability Academy. I went over to IAA as well, and then I spent some time up on campus. I was at Harris Millis, where I was housed as a student decades ago. So that was just very kind of crazy. But talking to students, trying to connect with them, to encourage them to vote. And I also assisted in driving people. So it was a long day, but it was a great day. And it was made me think about how do we get more people engaged. The ballot items all passed. I was disappointed in the percentage of the RAIB department. I'm concerned about what such a low percentage compared to the other items means. I think that's something that we need to discuss and think about. And I was very disappointed that Burlingtonians did not get an opportunity to vote on the tax fairness item. We would today have an idea as to how our residents of our city would have responded to that, and which was the most popular idea that came out of the tax fairness group that Mayor Mulvaney Stanek put together. So I just feel deeply disappointed, and I just feel that's a blow to democracy. I do want to remind everyone that the mayor meetups for the Central District, the next one will be Tuesday, March 10th. This is 5:30 to 6:30. It is a virtual meeting only. So out of the 4 meetups, 2 are in person in the mornings. This one is all virtual, 5:30, 6:30. And then East District, I think, is like a midday, and it's a hybrid. You can come in person or do the Zoom link. To get to the information, you just go to the City of Burlington, click on Government, and then Mayor Emma Mulvaney Stanek, and the meetups are the first thing that come up. And so you'll be able to click on which ones you're interested in. And if you want to do virtual, you'll be able to see the Zoom. I think it's really important that both wards, wards 2 and 3, that we are present for this. The attendance for Central District has been all over the place. Sometimes it's been well attended. Sometimes people are just not showing up. This is our opportunity to meet and talk to the mayor. And I think it would be great to see more people take advantage of it. Budget conversations continue. Oh,
When is the Central District meetup again?
next Tuesday, March 10th, 5:30 to
Is
6:30.
it like the set meeting time of the month?
Yes, second Tuesday of the month. Thank you. Budget conversations continue. I am always encouraging people to be on the mayor's email list. She's been sending out a lot of information. We have been having some extra meetings, not the whole council, but you can't have the whole council for extra meetings because you have quorum and public meetings. So there's like multiple meetings for counselors to answer questions and get some updated information that may not be able to be released publicly. There's a lot of conversations this time around with city employees. So one of the ideas that it was initially vetted and has been made public, but nothing's fully finalized, is the idea, for example, of volunteer furloughs. That is something that city employees are willing to talk about. We are going to have some more information on recycling and what is going to happen with that program. I very formally was against any of the original options that were offered, and I may be now moving my vote toward a strategic pause, and that is after a long conversation with the union and getting feedback from the union, and the feeling that they have is that having a strategic pause and then a way to move forward in the future is going to concentrate and save jobs that are already filled, as opposed to jobs that we just can't fill. And when we do fill them, they get past the probationary period and they take something else in the city. So it's a real problem. We'll be talking more about that. We'll have it, of course, at the city council, and I think I'll be putting something out about that specifically.
Clarification.
Oh, sure.
Are you talking about the city workers that come and pick up recycling? You can't
Yes.
get enough people to do
Yes,
the job,
it has
and-
been an
Okay.
it has been an ongoing problem with the inability to fill those positions. When they've been filled, there's been a higher rate of injury in those positions. They did bonuses the way that they've done for other positions to just kind of address some of the issues in the labor market. They raised the salary. It's not working the way we need it. The fleet is in horrendous condition. And we don't have the money right now. Like we're focusing on other fleet because there just isn't the money to replace all the fleet that needs to be replaced because of years of not only deferred maintenance, but deferred not replacing vehicles as often as we should. The mayor spoke about doing a ride along with an officer, and his equipment in the car wasn't working fully the way it should be. So it's, there's a priority for those vehicles over other fleet. And we continue to be talking about the budget early. That was a real goal of Mayor Mulvaney Stanik's, which was previously we would just start talking about the city would start talking about the budget so close to when you had to vote on the budget. And so now last year she pushed it back, and this year she's pushed it back even further. And again, having multiple meetings with city employees to get them really vested and being part of the conversation. Recycling agenda, the Public Safety Committee, due to unexpected scheduling issue, had to be canceled in March. So I'm sorry for that. We knew that Councillor Singh would be traveling with his family during the break, and Councillor Barlow's family didn't realize he had a meeting that night, and it was his mom's 88th birthday party. So the family had an event, and I understand that. So want to let everybody know that the next meeting is going to be on March 26th. At the next council meeting, I will be having the chief's reports attached to the agenda, so people will be able to see the latest reports from the police and fire chief. Sarah George, who is going to be joining us in February, will be joining us on March 26th. So still looking forward to that and hearing from her. And I'm also working on see if we can get an update. I received some data from the Howard Center, and I'm going to see if I can get someone to kind of review that data at that meeting. And
What's the data?
The data is so recently we essentially the CARES team was dismantled, and there are arrangements made for Howard Center to pick up some of their work. And yes, well, coordinating with the police department. And the request that was made was that we always had within the CAPE team, we would have data provided by Lacey Smith, which was presented to the public, periodically presented to the Public Safety Committee. So now we're trying to make sure we're getting that data in from Howard Center. So it'll be the first time that data will be presented, and we'll see if maybe there's more questions we'd like to ask of them, to have different things included. Also just needing to understand too what they can or cannot provide. And I think those are the major things. And if there's any questions.
Yeah, one from Mr. Josh, and then we'll move into a public forum.
Where is this public safety meeting? He says it's 26, but like what time?
It's a 26, which is the, in general, the Public Safety Committee meetings are the fourth Thursday of the month.
Okay.
Now, I always have a caveat when we get into a new council. I don't know if that will change. It's been the fourth Thursday for a while now. And it's a hybrid meeting. It's usually upstairs on the third floor in person, but you can also Zoom in.
Okay.
Yep, and it's 5:30. We usually run to 7. We try not to run past 7. But sometimes if there's a lot of questions or discussion or depending on what the updates are.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're very interesting. Both chiefs are really thorough, and for residents that live in wards 2 and 3, the heat maps, and now they also use something called hexagon maps, are really interesting because it continues to show that we are experiencing the highest rate of certain types of incidents in the city. So sometimes when people tell me that I complain too much about it, I pull out those maps, which come directly from both of those chiefs. And their data is very important. And I think it's important not to, incidents of crime, overdoses, all types of calls. It could just be, someone wants to have someone looked, what do they call it? Not a wellness check. Yeah, welfare check. Thank you. Thank you. And it's also, so it's not always violent crime. Certain violent crime is actually down, but it is just this activity that we still have in the area. What is really great though is the dramatic increase in foot patrols still, dramatic increase in directed patrols, which is to have cars. I'm sure you've all seen police cars driving around in different areas again. Those are directed patrols. Some crazy figure, like over 3,000% since Chief Burke came in. So giving information like that and giving information on the incidents that CSLs and CSOs are responding to. Chief Burke has said for these type of incidents, he has directed dispatch to give to them first, like a welfare check, unless someone reports that something violent is going on, is not going to go to a sworn officer. It's going to go to a CSO or CSL. So deploying the staff that we have differently. We still have a number of people not available. We have a couple of officers who are deployed. We have a couple that are on leave. We have a couple that had injuries, and there I think are a couple that are going through a use of force review. So I think that's 10. So in one way we stabilized, but in another way we have this unavailability of some officers. Any other questions?
This isn't a question. It's
Oh.
more of a comment. Really disappointed about that apartheid issue. It's that it's not even getting out of city council so that Burlington residents can vote. I mean, what was this, the third time?
Yes, and so this time the approach was a little bit different. The first 2 times individuals got thousands of signatures, the required percentage of voters to present it to the council. And what the council, in my opinion, our job was to vote on it to be on the ballot, because the goal, this idea that people can just do whatever they want to try to get something on the ballot is really not, to me, it's not something that I can take seriously, because you have to be extremely organized to get the number of signatures that's required. And someone that just wants to get something on the ballot as a fluke is simply not going to do that. You have to have a lot of people involved. And you have to be checking, you have to be confirming the registrations, following up with the clerk's office. So the first time, and they were prepared to do it a third time, but the progressives, we put together a resolution just to say, can we put this statement on the ballot for the city of Burlington to vote on? I think the situation is, well, to last week, it's just gotten even more dramatically worse because of this surprise war with Iran. But when we look at other things going on in the world, and there is certainly a lot of misery and there's a lot of death, and I think we should be aware of all these things, but the difference here is we're not funding it. Our country is funding what's happening in Gaza. We are funding it to the tune of billions of dollars, and we can't build homes. We can't get recovery centers. We can't get a tiered mental health facility so that individuals who are a danger to themselves and the public, where they can't be held in jail but need to be in a secure place, we can't get these things. We have people starving. We have billions and billions of dollars have gone out for that. And I think that is something that we need to really think about. And I sometimes say to people, what is your definition of genocide? I use the 1948 Genocide Convention. I listen to what human rights groups across the world are talking about, the international courts. What are they talking about, especially when they have charges out on Benjamin Netanyahu? He can't travel to other countries, but he can travel here. That's deeply concerning. So I say to people, what is your definition and what is the body count? How many children, innocent children, women, men, how many have to die before that's recognized? I could go on for that for a long time, but I'll leave it there. I do feel between that and then the tax fairness, the tax fairness ballot, I mean, there was just no reason not to let that on. There will be another committee that will be started. And we are talking about that and making a determination of who will be on that based on the resolution that was passed. Yeah, I'll leave that there, but that will be announced.
Councilor Grant, Councilor-elect Sanchez Perkinson, thank you for those updates. We have a little minute left. The last item on the agenda is the omnipresent public forum. If there's anyone that would like to speak for up to 2 minutes, not seeing any takers here. I'll move to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Sorry, I just have a quick thought.
Yeah.
Thank you again for having me. I just wanted to make a comment. I would love to think more about how to increase attendance to our NPAs, and would welcome any thoughts or ideas that folks may have in terms of like how to engage a broader community. I think being out in the field in the last 2-3 months, I think there's definitely interest in engaging and in being in community. And I'd love to maybe in a future agenda be able to discuss like what are some strategies that we can have to engage people to make it feel welcoming and accessible. Thank you.
It may seem odd, but it could be pivotal. We have bulletin boards, public bulletin boards. Several have been removed lately for no apparent reason. We have very few of them. They are preoccupied or dominated or seized by higher ground. And they advertise in papers. And there's no reason for us to be unable to put up a public announcement, and they should be able to put up 10 or 15 of their posters totally covering the only public bulletin boards we have. I think it's an issue that should be addressed. And there are many issues that I have noticed that few others notice, like the number 11 bus and the hospital. But yeah, we could have public announcement boards, public bulletin boards. We had them, and they've been secretly or openly they've been taken over for the last 15 years. They're all just higher ground. And they shouldn't be able to do that. We should be able to speak to the community with our bulletin boards.
And on that note, move to adjourn.